Hello guys, it's me, Stark, and I'm here today to talk to you about something. Enduring in the game. How do you survive and how do you try to hold on pressure and come back in games where you are behind? So the idea here is to show a real example of a game where I somehow got myself in a real bad situation and what I actually did to get out of this bad situation. So I was playing here a ranked match here against a 2K3 player alive, a very old Brazilian player here from an old generation. Alive is a very experienced player. He has been playing this game for more than 25 years for sure, and he has won big tournaments, team game tournaments with the Legion clan, which some of you guys might remember, but if you are from a newer generation, you might not be even understanding a single thing about what I'm talking here. So first off, I'm going to describe what's going to happen in this game, and when we get to the point where things get a bit more serious, I'm going to go ahead and explain the concepts and what did I actually thought and what did I actually did here to try and keep myself on the game. So the game was Armenian versus Saracens. This was Arabia with chickens, and I ended up going for the chicken here. I actually dropped my mule cart in the closest wood line to the chicken so that I would minimize the walking time for my villagers to use the chicken and get and diversify my food sources without having to invest into a mule. And the reason I did that is because I wanted to open with infantry. This is my barracks. I know some of you might argue that I should have done it forward or trying to shield my berries, which were truly exposed here. But the thing is, I actually did it here because the villager was in the range of the town center, so in case he tried to lay me, he wouldn't be able to do so. So I'm about to click up. I ended up messing the chicken times a bit and went up with one more villager than I wanted to go. So I'm going here for a population 20. And my plan here, guys, is to open infantry. I already have some guys eating here the gold. I have these guys here on the wood. I'm finishing to eat the chicken, and I'm already going to invest here into the meal. Not my best up. I knew that I was against the Saracen, and my plan here was to pressure alive with infantry and later switch into ranged units, archers to help me pressure his villagers, or skirmishers that would help me to counter his own ranged units if he tried to do so. Alive was a pretty smart player, and realizing that he was facing infantry, he fully walled his base. So right here, guys, there's no villager for me to hit, and he is already investing into his archer range. So the maximum thing that I can do here to damage alive is trying to kill one of the palisades and join his base, which is exactly what I'm trying to do here. But it's difficult because if he's aware of the danger, he can just start repairing in the back. And the other thing that I could try to do here was to add some units to kill the repairers. So my strategy here was going for archers, and the archers would actually hit the villagers that were trying to repair. So that was basically the strategy, and meanwhile Alive was developing his economy while making skirmishers. Remember that he's Saracen, so I was concerned that I need to pressure him, because else he would just drop a market, sell his resources, and he would be able to reach a way faster castle wage time. I was aiming for the houses. They have minus armor, so this would be my key point here to kill him. But defending from behind with skirmishers and repairing, that was very difficult to actually deal any significant damage. Meanwhile, I was already starting to reinforce my base here and wall, and this is something very important. You're gonna see that every time I'm playing here on Feudal Age, I'll have at least one villager tasked with walling and building houses. So I'll have a guy that is either building things like a blacksmith and small palisade segments to keep myself closed, or he will be building houses there while doing so. So this is very important because in this way I will just keep fighting. I will not going to fully invest into walling there, but by the end of Feudal Age I will be probably fully walled. And meanwhile I was developing my eco here by dropping new farms. At some point, I ended up upgrading Long Swordsman and Arson, which is the unique upgrade that deals extra damage to the buildings. And the reason for that is I wanted my Long Swordsman to have enough power to take down his houses and actually force a fight that would force him to send his villagers back to the TC. Perhaps I would even kill some villagers, but idling the villagers, in my opinion, was enough of a threat here for him. So there were my Long Swordsmen try to kill the house. I forced it alive to build a tower back, so this is a big win because he won't be able to sell his resources since he's repairing on the back. And I'm trying to get fights here. I'm just trying to buy time for the Long Swordsmen to kill the house, and there I go, trying to hit the villagers. That was a very good fight. I forced a tower and killed 2 villagers, but I lost several army while doing so. So I have to retreat, regroup, and perhaps even get some extra armor like this, so that my Long Swordsman can sustain a bit more damage here versus the enemy skirmishers. And of course, meanwhile, what I was doing? Building houses, walling. After setting up a big number of farms, I thought that this was the time to switch my economy back to the wood line. And I was struggling to actually get a clean fight. Whenever Alive was feeling pressured, he would just run towards his tower or his TC. And of course, in the open field, he would just use his skirmisher numbers to fight me off. He had a market, so eventually he would be able to buy his castle age. And since I was not being able to directly confront or fight against his army, I did something that is very important, and I think that a lot of players don't realize. Instead of fighting his army, I would just ignore it, and I'm going for his economy. Pretty simple, right? That's a very, very simple concept, but a lot of players do not do that. If you cannot face your opponent army hand to hand, if you cannot kill his army on a big fight, or if you're feeling like this is not a good game for you to do so, ignore his army and go for his eco. And there I went here, killing 1 more villager. Did I kill this one? I don't know. Anyway, I'm trying to kill several villagers here during Feudal Age. I know, I'm losing some army, but I'm trading for it for vills, so it's actually a good thing here for me. And eventually he was forced to bring his army back just to defend. Non-stop aggression. The problem is, at some point Alive had a big army here of ranged units, and there my issues started. I was thinking that I would be able to play with a 2-handed swordsman and keep the same strategy that I was using on Feudal Age during the Castle Age. The problem is, Alive actually invested into archers, and I forgot some very important stuff. The Saracen archers have bonus versus buildings, so he went inside of my base way earlier than what I was expecting. And for that reason, I had to transition my economy here and switch my strategy from playing with Long Swordsman to play with Elite Skirmisher. I didn't have enough economy to produce both Elite Skirmisher and Long Swordsman, most because I got most of my farms here on the front killed or idle by Alive, together with several villagers that he was one, either delete those farms or manually micro every villager that was trying to go there and send them back to the wood. Yeah, I know. That's a bit harsh, right? Anyway, I tried to repel his army using my skirmisher and long swordsman. The idea, guys, is pretty simple. I try to kill the crossbowmen using the elite skirmisher, so that the long swordsman will deal with the skirmishers that, well, they only have 5 attack. My long swordsman, despite not being fully upgraded, still could tank a lot of damage and deal significant damage here to the skirmishers. So that was the idea of the fight, and that is the composition that I believe to be the best one available. Infantry and skirmishers. I wouldn't change that. But there's of course some problems. While I was focusing here, getting those fights, Alive was smarter than I, and he escaped with some archers and killed several of my vills, guys. Several of my vills. So all the damage that I did during Feudal Age now was no more, because I was already receiving all the damage here from Alive. I realized that I need to keep developing my economy, so this is where you start to transition into a victory here. You start to boom. You start to adding more town centers to develop your economy and remake the villagers that you are losing. I shouldn't be losing vills, but I am. So what am I gonna do? I'm gonna produce extra villagers. So that's something very important. Another thing very important that kept me on gaming. Look at my upgrades, my economical upgrades. I have the second wood upgrade. It's called bow saw, and this is a very important one. Not only because I'm Armenian, but for every civilization, this boosts your economy by a large margin. It's like 20% increase on your wood rate here. Alive didn't have that. He's Saracen. He invested into several different armies, such as crossbowmen, elite skirmisher, siege, light cavalry. With all this investment into army, he actually forgot to get his upgrade done. And he, of course, he's thinking like me. He knows that he needs town centers to keep himself on the game. That said, take a look on this. He was constantly trying to attack my wood lines. I was constantly having to move my wood lines because he either had ranged units such as crossbowmen or skirmishers, and sometimes even scorpions there. And skirmishers only were not being enough to deal with that because he had also a few light cavalry. At some point I was just trying to get my economy running. I was moving my villagers from one spot to the other, but the biggest thing here was not letting my villagers die and not let my villagers go idle. So this was the biggest thing here. As you can see, we both had a lot of inefficiency here. More than 3 minutes idle time for each of us. That's unacceptable here. And this shows how intense this game was. Resources collected were quite close, but Alive was having way more success here on the fights. Once again, I tried to repeat the process using the skirmishers and the long swordsmen, but guys, I'm gonna tell you, this was a huge mistake. That was a very bad fight, and I'm gonna explain the reasons. First one, I was not being able to kill his crossbowman. The reason is I had no ballistics, so as long as he was moving, I wasn't being able to hit his army properly. Second one, my infantry didn't have all the upgrades I needed. As you can see, my long swordsmen so far only have +2 armor because I actually upgraded Gambensons. So I don't have the actual +2 armor, only now I'm upgrading because I realize that I'm not going to win a fight without making it. And for that reason, together with Alive good micro and tactics, which was, for example, going for a hill, I ended up losing a fight, losing another big fight here, and this was pretty bad. In order to buy myself some time, I did build here a fortified church. The idea of this fortified church was to provide a small safe area for my army to start gathering and to create an obstacle for Alive not to disrupt my farming and not to push my town center once again. As you can see, he does have a mangonel there and he does have a hill, but until he kills my monastery, I'll have enough time to react by adding more army, counter-attacking, maybe sniping his mango, these kind of things. So the other important thing that kept me on game here was producing enough farms. I'm on castle age and I need to be pumping out army. So one thing that I find to be very important is to keep developing and adding farms. So I did add like several farms, as you can see there, and I was always buying time here by using my fortified churches. So he cannot advance and kill my army because I have this unit. For that reason, I'm able to regroup, I'm able to heal some of my units using a warrior priest, and I try to get his attention until he retreats because he doesn't feel confident in fighting my army. Alright, game kept going. My eco was heavily unbalanced, as you guys can see. I had like a lot of wood, a lot of gold, that I was not using. My units were very cheap regarding the gold. So, and I knew that I still need more power for my skirmishers to work. So I did invest here into ballistics. With ballistics, I would be able to chase down his army and actually hit something. Look at that. Without ballistics, I'm chasing him, but I'm barely attacking here because I know that I won't be able to to hit his army. And right there, guys, I took the two decisions that would keep me on game despite all the disadvantages here regarding both army and vill. And the two decisions that I made were, first off, I need to expand. So I did get some villagers, and I sent them to the corner to build a town center. Yes, I just looked towards a wood, and I started to expand. I started to create my empire. I started to occupy a corner. And this is very important. If you just produce and if you just build around your base, especially if you are losing, you are going to suffer way too much from the pressure. So spreading out your economy is an important concept to keep yourself on the game. The second biggest decision that changed my game was, instead of directly fighting the armies of Alive, who was constantly beating me, I decided to get my army and go on his base. So with a small army of long swordsmen and elite skirmisher, I was able to start harassing him. Towers were nothing but a distraction. With arson and long swordsmen, I could kill them. I was able to idle and kill several of his villagers. So basically, I was having here a good time. The problem is, without my army there to defend myself, Alive was able to come forward and even drop a castle. Knowing that he would drop a castle, I tried to make a fortified church here on this hill, and honestly, it might seem like I failed, but I actually succeed here in my goal. If Alive had a castle on this hill, he would be able to kill all these buildings, including my town center, and I would have way less space here to work. By making my own fortified church on the hill, he was forced to build a castle outside of it. So this was actually a big win for me, guys. It doesn't look like, but it was. Meanwhile, I'm there, spreading my army on his eco, trying to kill villagers, trying to kill his buildings. But of course, my army is still a bit fragile. Meanwhile, what I was doing, spreading my villagers, building new farms, developing my economy. As you can see, guys, look at my farm count. I had like 34 farms here at home, not all of them were being used, and I still was building more farms. So farm up all the way is a great tip for you during Castle Age. You need to build up farm, you need to expand. So I start farming, expanding, because with all these farms I would be able to keep producing army. I would be able to keep doing several units here, such as skirmisher, such as the long swordsman, and of course, in order to advance and survive his raidings, I was still building fortified churches. So you use what your civ gives you. Alive was about to do another castle there. I was building several fortified churches, and those were giving me a lot of peace. With these fortified churches, I was able to hide villagers inside and kill his raiding units. So basically, fortified churches was also a big play, but I couldn't do anything here to fight against his castles. And meanwhile, there I am attacking. Attacking, non-stop, guys. I'm getting close in the villager count, despite having only 3. So constantly producing villagers is quite important. At this stage of the game, there's something that I would like to share with you. Look at the idle TC time. I had 10 minutes of TC idle time. That's a lot. That's a very messy game. But then take a look on Alive. He has 23 minutes. So despite being ineffective, Alive was being even worse. and part of that is I was constantly hitting his farms, I was constantly hitting his economy, and his economy had way too much town centers, but not enough farms to keep up the production of both villagers and army. So while I'm always producing villagers, Alive is not using all of his 5 TCs. They are more a defensive unit than a production one. Alright, let's keep going. There's more that I want to show. Anyway, I was under several pressure. Now Alive has this castle, and he is effectively sieging me from the hill, so there's not much I can do about it. And he had a bigger army, so in the 1v1 my skirmishers were not finding good fights. And he also blocked all my development towards the right side using this castle, which made things a lot more painful to me. So with this castle I wouldn't be able to go and collect this wood, I wouldn't be able to collect this gold. All the extra golds were on this side of the map, so they were far away from me. So what I did decide to do was to making a castle to set my second gold. This castle would deny Alive from attacking me and directly raiding me. As you can see, his light cavs are having a lot of trouble to do so. And of course I would be able to protect both gold and wood. And with the help of the castle, guys, I started doing a unit that would be very good for me to defend. The composite bowman. The composite bowman is able to ignore armor. So with this unit at hand, I started to counter his ratings. Once I had a small group of those guys, I would be able to 1 or 2 shot light cavalry. So he knew about my economy, he was trying to raid me, but I was defending using several composite bowmans. Not only that, but I did finish to saccharine my gold and my wood and all my farming eco on the bottom by adding here a secondary castle. Many can say, hey Stark, game is freezing a bit. Why didn't you go for the castle here on the middle of your farms? That was indeed a good option here for me to add the castle. And by the way, guys, I just missed 2 new town centers. Sometimes in a game you are going to be under pressure and you are going to lose town centers to enemy castles, enemy trebuchets, enemy siege. What do you do when you lose your town centers? The answer is pretty simple. You move your villagers so you don't lose them, and you build new town centers. Very simple, right? That's the idea. You reboom, you keep going, you keep adjusting yourself. You run towards some safe position. In my case, for example, I did run towards behind my castles. Right here, I was suffering with siege and I was suffering with raidings, but I still had my fortified churches to buy time, and having those 2 castles and a small army of composite bowmen, I knew that from this moment I wouldn't suffer against Alive at all. I would be able to make my own economy, and I was on the way to Imperial Age. Alive was also trying to pressure me now. He was about to drop a 3rd castle. As you can see, I'm cornered here, guys. I'm literally in a small portion of the map, but I'm on the way to the Imperial Age. Of course, once in Imperial Age, I'm going to unleash several stuff, such as trebuchets, such as upgrades for my army. I was still trying to get a fight here to relieve some of the pressure, but as you can see, I was not succeeding. I was getting all the eco upgrades that I forgot to get, like the gold mining one, like the hand card, so I'm kind of cleaning up all the mess I did here. My 3 TCs are all on the corner, and I have still a few golds here that I can take. By the way, this is Alive's 3rd gold that I'm obviously planning to steal. It's almost in the range of my castle. Another good tip that I have for you guys is, if you are getting raided a lot, start adding small walls here. It doesn't matter if you are adding only palisade walls, like I just did. But because with those, you can just force your enemy army to go around and go under your castles. And then the castles will defend it for you without the need of getting villagers inside of TCs, moving army. So building like that will always be helpful because it can actually counter ratings, or at least make it a lot harder for the ratings to actually be effective. And of course, I started to raid Alive with everything I had. I was also trying to face off his army so that my farms here would still exist. And now with Bracer, I had the power that was necessary for me to outrange his army and finally, for the first time, give him some threat here. Terrible fight, by the way. I was actually shooting the outposts while the Mangonel was killing everything. Oh my god, I don't remember. This is how I micro? Damn! I look like a 1k5 player. No offense, 1k5 guys. I know you micro better than that. Yeah, I don't look like a 1k5 player. Damn, I'm worse than that. Anyway, since I had bracer, my units had extra range and extra attack, and for that reason I was able to get here a clean fight. No, okay, far out from a clean fight. I was able to get an effective fight for harps. I was able to stop the aggression here and eventually kill his manual after way too much effort. By the way, congrats to Alive, who not only was using his manual but was also repairing it, so that doesn't matter how many shots I was taking, it was never going down. It only went down after I sent my two-handed swordsman. Damn. Alright guys, so now I have two-handed swordsman. Now I'm upgrading chemistry. I took down one of Alive's castle. I'm about to besiege the second one, and I'm sending my village. Regarding the army composition, guys, I had a few composite bowmen. I had a few elite skirmishers. Composite bowman, by the way, is a great weapon to kill the enemy army, because it ignores armor, so it doesn't matter how much armor Alive has, I'm gonna bypass it. The problem is the composite bowman can actually die to arbalests because they have like one less range. So in theory, arbalests can get good fights there, especially on the early engages. So knowing that, I went for my best weapon here. I went for the champions with ferreters, the upgrade that allows my champions to reach up to 100 HP. I was still trying to build, guys, and deny my access to the extra goats. The problem is he ended up underestimating the power of my push. I had several trebuchets, which I was using to kill his town centers. He delayed his eco upgrades, so only now he was getting access to upgrades such as the bowsaw, such as the reviplow. He still had no handcart, so despite having a good amount of views, his economy was not being able to compete with mine, and for a simple reason: I did the correct upgrades. So it doesn't matter how many mistakes I did here, I was sticking myself to the fundamentals here of the game. I was getting a fight, and I was fighting even from downhill because I wanted to fight before Alive got his crossbowmen fully upgraded. As you can see, those are no better than a regular castle age crossbowmen. Only now he's about to finish chemistry. He still has no bracer, so basically this is Imperial Age units fighting Castle Age units. So even with the heal at his side, I still thought that this was a good fight for me. And of course, then I started doing my best unit, the champions with ferreters. So it doesn't matter how much pressure I took. By the way, sustaining against his ratings, guys, was becoming very difficult. So I decided to add another castle here in the middle of my farms. The goal of this castle, pretty simple, to try to cover all this area and block the ratings that were coming here from the right side. So Alive was pushing me and attacking me here with several Hussars, and by using this castle I would be able to seize those attacks. Whenever I'm losing villagers, I'm making new ones, and this is very important. A lot of players get raided, they go down to like 80 vills and they die. Why they die? Because they stop making vills. If you are losing villagers, make more vills. If you are losing TCs, make more TCs. Keep developing your economy, even on Imperial Age. Keep adding town centers, keep adding villagers, especially if you are losing them. And this way, you are never gonna die. So this is one of the final tips there. Keep building town centers, keep building villagers. My champions were ignoring his ranged units because of how much HP they had, so in small numbers, the champions would always win. It doesn't matter. In small numbers, these champions would always win, and I had several of those champions. A few composite bowmen, always helpful here to shield my skirmishers against Hussars, and eventually, guys, a small group of those champions was enough to take Alive down. By the way, it's worth mentioning that they have their full armor upgraded. I still lacking a few upgrades, such as the attack, but they already have a base 14 attack, and honestly, that's a lot for a melee unit. That's a lot. Taking into consideration a Hussar, the Hussar here has only 7 base attack, so I have twice the attack from a Hussar. I have more HP than a Rusar, and currently I have the same Pierce armor as a Rusar. So mobility was the only thing that the Rusar had better than my champions. He doesn't had enough ranged units, and eventually I just run him down using my army. So yeah, guys, from losing basically all of my TCs, all of my base, moving towards the corner, making sure that I would still be able to collect resources on a safe spot, blocking his ratings using buildings here, walls, castles, fortified churches, more castles, using these concepts and going for my best army composition here, champions, elite skirmishers, composite bowman. I was able to turn this game. I hope this was helpful. I hope this was insightful for you guys. Stick to the concepts, keep collecting resources, minimize your idle time, remake the TCs whenever you lose them, and you are probably going to be able to withstand your opponents and turn out a lot of games during